Right. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Wednesday afternoon. We're going to let people file in here for the first few minutes, but then we'll go ahead and get started. Share my screen. And I apologize, guys. I don't have any cool background music, so you're just going to have to listen to my noises as I set everything up back here. Looks like we've got a decent group in here now, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into things. For everybody that is not aware of who I am, my name is Alex Arizari. I operate here on the customer success team at InsuredMine. Been a little bit since I've hosted a webinar myself, but we're going to focus today on InsuredMine feature updates. We've made a few UI changes, a couple updates to the system over these past few months. So we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see how some of these features work in action. If anybody has any questions while this session is going on, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I will do my best to answer anything that comes in through there live on the call. And if there's anything that I am unable to answer today, I would strongly suggest that you reach out to your designated customer success manager or our support team for continued assistance. To give you guys a little bit of an idea of what the agenda is going to look like, let me switch over to my PowerPoint. So like I said, we're going to walk through a demo of a bunch of new features here, covering really all the modules we have available in the InsuredMine platform. At the end of that session, I will give a little bit of time to do a bit of a Q&A, and then we will wrap up with a couple last slides. For now, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen share to our demo portal, and we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is the InsuredMine demo environment. I'm going to start with features available that we added into both our Account 360 and Contact 360 pages. Regardless of which section I go into, if I open up an account, just go ahead and pull up Old Reliable here. Okay. If I access the communications section of my Account 360 page, and I look under my workflows section, I will now see an option not just for completed workflows, but also any scheduled upcoming workflows. So if this account is brought into any automation, for instance, a welcome client campaign, birthday automations, renewals, review requests, any of those upcoming workflows will show here. It will tell you the title of the workflow itself, the stage, the recipient name specifically, and then when that is going to be delivered. Okay. This same scheduled workflow section is available on the Contact 360 page. You would find it in much the same way. Access the Communications tab, select Workflows, and then you can see that section down here. I apologize. Next up, we're going to go ahead and move over to the pipeline module. This is actually where the bulk of our feature updates that we'll be discussing today are found. The first thing I want to make sure you guys are aware of is we have added the ability to track open, clicked, bounced, and spam details for any outbound email communications in pipeline automation. So if I were to access my automation settings, and I can do that by clicking on the action button here in the top right, selecting automation, and then selecting Synth Analytics over here on the right side. Once I have accessed Synth Analytics, I can set my filter parameters for the timeline I want to review. Let's say I just want to track all of my synths for this entire year. I can see over on this left side, I have sent a total of 144 emails. If I click specifically on this email activity, it will then give me the ability to track every email that has been sent as part of an automation. And on top of that, it will also show me the progress, whether the email was sent, whether it was opened, if they clicked, bounced, or logged a complaint. All of this is available for me here. Okay. We have also added a couple other report-related, data-related items into the pipeline module. Another one of those is the ability to track child lead sources from the downloaded spreadsheet. If we go into the lead source menu here, and then in the top, I apologize. In the top left side, right side, we have the download button. If we were to download this Excel spreadsheet, I'll go ahead and open it up right here. So this lead source list will now include sections for not just the main source, but also the child source as well. Okay. So we can see the child source is listed here. It will have its name. We will also see the total lead count and deal count that is associated with this source here. In addition, we have also added the ability to track that on second, guys. All these screens are giving my computer a lot of trouble. Okay, so now if we look at the lead source list from within here, without downloading the report itself, we can also see the leads count and the deal cards count. The leads count will tell us the individuals that are associated with this lead source. And from this tab, we can also see for those individuals if you have already created a deal card for them. You will notice, depending on the status, they will actually have a different color listed here. All open cards are orange. However, if you have won or lost a card, it will be highlighted in the corresponding color, either green or red, depending on won or lost. The deal cards count view, instead of showing you the individual, will show you every deal card that has been associated with this lead source. Okay. The same can be said for the individual child sources. If I click this drop down, find the child, I can see the lead counts specifically associated with this child source and the deal card count as well. Okay. I don't see any inquiries in the chat right now, so I'm going to go ahead and move on back to the main pipeline page. And we're going to look a little bit at some of the changes we've made to our pipeline setup. So when we are editing or creating a new pipeline, we click on this drop down here in the top left side. Let's say I wanted to create a brand new service pipeline. If I click on this create new option here at the bottom of this list, I enter my service pipeline name. And then for pipeline type, if I select service pipeline, that will change some of the defaults that are available to us here. You will notice, in comparison to selecting sales, where the category list is always set to default, when I select service, it defaults to custom with a number of available categories already preloaded here for you. Now you can add on to this list at any time if you choose to by simply clicking the add category button. But for every service pipeline you create, they will at least have these categories available to you. In addition, if I save and continue, let's go ahead and move on to step 3. On the deal modules page, for those who have created pipelines before, you're probably aware that all of these options are typically selected by default. However, now when you create a service pipeline card, intake form and quotes will already be turned off for the service pipeline. As well, final action will closed will already be selected as the default option. If I move on to go ahead and create the service pipeline, I can see that my pipeline has now been built. If I go in to add a deal card, those new restrictions that I've made will now come into play. The easiest method for seeing this is to click on the deal category dropdown and selecting the corresponding service category. So I've selected billing. Another feature you may be common with is the ability to add premium and revenue associated with a specific sales category. You will notice, because we are on a service pipeline instead, the premium and revenue requirements are no longer visible. Let me go ahead. I will add a test deal card here real quick. And we'll go ahead and give it a category for billing. So once I create this service card, it will be added onto my pipeline. The deal page itself is going to be very similar to what you've expected before. You will notice, because I selected closed as the final action, there is only a green close button here. If I click on this, it will immediately process the closing of the service request. There will not be a pop-up menu with the separate quote section for you to fill out policy related information. It closes immediately, you get your fireworks, and the deal card is then removed from your open bowl. I do see one question in the chat. Martin, yes. So we do record all of these sessions. They will be made available on our website, but we will also share an email later this week or early next week with the recording link attached. Another new addition to the pipeline editing workflow, if we have already created a pipeline, in this case, I've created the service test pipeline, I can go in to edit it. What you will notice is in the bottom right-hand corner, typically we had an update and continue button. For this point, you had to update through every step in order to save your changes. Now, if there is a specific section that you need to update, let's say in my case, I need to add additional stages to this pipeline, I can come in here, make my changes, and then click skip and update. This will bypass the last 4 steps on the pipeline editor and allow my changes to take effect immediately. Okay, so you no longer have to go through all 6 steps every time you want to make an edit. You can simply navigate to the stage you want to make changes to, click skip and update, and those changes will then take effect. Any questions on those changes? Anything I can answer for you guys before we move on to the next feature? Okay. So the next thing that you guys will probably notice pretty quickly is that we've made a few changes to the general UI here of the main pipeline page. The first one to focus on is that we have added headers and footers to the deal card stages. I can see right here, this is my header and this is my footer. This is just to make things a little bit cleaner, to specify where the cards are actually sitting in, and ensures that your deal title is distinct and separated from the rest. In addition to that, in the effort of making things cleaner on your taskbar, we have also added new filter buttons, which were previously not condensed. They were spread out throughout the top panel. Now, if I wanted to change my filters, I would select either view type, I would select status type, or I would select card layout. For view type, still have card view, I have list view, and I have forecast view. I still have access to all status types and the different card views. Okay. Functionally, nothing has changed. It's just the layout here that is a little bit different. Now I'm going to jump back into the personalized pipeline to show you this next option. On the deal cards themselves, you may notice that we have added some additional bubbles here over on the right side of the card. These additional bubbles highlight the quote categories. So rather than having to go in and access a deal card and going into the deal page to find the appropriate category that's listed here, you can now see at a quick glance from the card itself which categories we are associating with this opportunity. This is also something that has already been implemented in everybody's portal and will retroactively be added to your deal cards. So if you've logged into the InsuredMine in the last couple of days, you've probably already noticed these bubbles being added to your cards. Next up, another change we've made to how the pipeline module works is that we are holding your filters for the length of your session. What that means is that if I go into this filter button and I say I only want to see Adam Smith's and my own cards, and I want to filter by specific policy categories. So let's say I only want to see commercial auto policies. I can filter my deal cards looking only at categories associated with commercial auto that have been assigned to either Adam Smith or myself. Now, if I were to leave this module, prior to this point, those filters would be removed. If I wanted to see the filters again, I would have to reset them. But now, within the same session, if I return to the pipeline module, you can see that the filters I have placed have saved. Okay. As I mentioned, this only exists for the entire time of your session, the length of your current session. If you sign out and sign back in, the filters will reset. You will have to apply them again. But for the entire time that this session remains active, your filters will stay in place. Another change that we've made to the pipeline filters in particular is we have also added the ability to filter by primary assignee specifically. You will notice next to each of the assignee names now, there is a star icon. If I click on the star icon next to Adam Smith, it will then filter the cards for only the ones that are associated with him as the primary. I'll click apply here, and again, you can see my filter results based on those options. One more option for filtering or sorting your deal cards. We can also click on the drop down here. This will allow us to sort all of the cards in the stage. Before this point, we had options for sorting by due date, expected closing date, moved on, but we have also added the ability to sort deal cards by their last activity date. You can either sort by the most recent activity or the oldest activity on the card. Okay. If we sort oldest to newest, all that means is that there has not been activity on that deal card for the longest point of time. Okay. And that filter option is available in every deal card stage, which you can view right here. Okay. Any questions? Let's check anything here if we see anything else. Nope. Not seeing anything else in the chat at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and advance to our last item in the pipeline, which is specifically related to renewal pipeline setup. If we access the pipeline settings over here on the right side of the page, and then I come to find the renewal pipeline setting option, when I enable my renewal automation, this is done specifically to create deal cards based on the renewal timeline. If my agency is working on renewals 30 days in advance, I would set the renewal automation to create those deal cards on the pipeline of my choosing within 30 days. A new option that we have added here is the ability to skip weekends for renewal automation. All this means is that if the 30th day before expiration happens to come on a Saturday or Sunday, it will not create the deal cards on that day. It will create it on the following business day, in this case, Monday. Okay, this functions in much the same way that our automations, our email automations work, where an email, if it was scheduled to send on a weekend, would just deliver on the next business day. Okay. For this setting and for all of the pipeline editing and setup items we looked at, those are specifically limited to the admin view, which is what I'm logged into right now. If I were to access pipeline settings as an agent, I would not have the ability to set up these same renewal automations or pipelines. Okay. Any questions on the releases for pipelines specifically before we move on to our next module? Okay. In that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move us on to the engagement module. We really only have one new feature to show here in engagement. If you access the work email tab, it will show you your inbox so you can track all of your deliveries, all of your received emails is available here. One new item that we've added is the ability to track your failed emails. If you click on this option, it will show you who the email was intended for, the subject line, when it was sent, account and contact associated with it, if applicable, and then the email failure reason will be listed here. It will also give you the ability to attempt to resend that email directly from this report. Okay. So moving on to the next section we're going to look at, this is the e-sign module. So let me go ahead and scroll down here a bit. I will select e-sign. So a few things we've done to the e-sign module. I'm going to prepare as if I'm sending a document. Okay. Let me go ahead and upload my e-sign document. I will click next. Give this a second to load in. So on the signer screen, I'm going to add my test account here. And I'm going to go ahead and update that email as well. And click add. In addition to that, I am also going to tag the agent as the last signer on this document for a feature I'll show you guys here in a few minutes. But for now, let me go ahead and set up my fields for Alex to sign. And I will also add fields here for my agent. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my final screen, sending this email. and then I will deliver that document. Okay. Once that document is delivered to the individual, when they're viewing their e-sign, there will now be a pointer icon on the side of the page, which will show them line by line what they're looking at. To give you guys a little bit of insight on what that looks like, let me go ahead and move over to our knowledge base. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. Show our timeline in a way that we weren't able to before. Previously, if we selected agent as the last signer and then built our timeline, it was not showing when the email was delivered to the agent in order to complete signature. Now we will track the full timeline of events and show you when it was sent, not just to the potential client, but also when it was sent to the agent to complete signing. For the last e-sign related feature, we're actually going to have to go into our settings module and access our restriction settings. In order to find restrictions, we need to click on the configuration tab, select restrictions, and then down here, we can see all of the different items that we can restrict for different agents. We can restrict the ability to delete contacts or accounts, to add, edit, or delete templates. But a new addition is the ability to restrict e-sign cancellations. If you toggle this off for your agents, what that means is they will no longer see an option to cancel e-sign requests once they have been delivered from the InsuredMine system. In addition, we have made a number of other updates in the settings module. The first one we're going to look at comes under notification settings. If I scroll down on this list, I will find the options for incoming text notifications. If I click enable on this option, you will see there is still the ability to send text notifications to the assigned agent, to the assigned CSR, or an email address of your choosing. But what if we receive a text from an unknown number that's not associated with an existing account or contact? Well, we have now added the ability to send any unknown text numbers to an email address of your choosing. You would simply check this box, enter your email, and ensure that no text messages are missed, even if they are delivered from a number that is not associated with a current account or contact. And lastly, if we come here to the top of the page under System Preferences and select the MFA option, previously, admins had the ability to enable multi-factor authentication for their agencies, and then when the agents signed into their own settings module, they had the choice to set up their MFA option. What we have now added is we've added the ability for an admin to make MFA mandatory. If I were to trigger this on for all of my agents, what that would entail is the next time they sign into the InsuredMine platform, when they input their credentials, it will immediately direct them to select an MFA option, whether that's going to go through their authenticator app, whether it's going to go through a text message or an email address. Okay. They will see a screen very similar to this before they are allowed to log into the InsuredMine platform. They have to enable their multi-factor authentication option. Okay. If you do not choose to turn on the MFA mandatory setting, it will remain the same way it is now. If you have MFA enabled, they can choose to go into their own settings module and turn it on at any point, but it will not be a requirement like it is with the MFA mandatory setting. Okay. So those are all the features I have available for you guys today. As I mentioned, I'm going to leave a little bit of time here for you guys to post questions in chat or add them to the Q&A, just so we can review and ensure there's anything else. Let me see. Okay, it looks like a couple of these came in, but I didn't get pinged for it. Are there any plans to save our filters? That was from Justin. For saving the filters, saving them permanently, no. Like I said before, it will be saved for the duration of your time on a current session, but it will be erased. You'll have to reset them the next time you log into InsuredMine. Alexander, you also asked, is the renewal automation the same as the X-date automation? It is not. These are two different workflows. They do function very similarly, but if you look right here, we have separate options for the renewal pipeline and the X-date pipeline. They both create deal cards, but they go about it in very different ways. The renewal automation creates it based off of the actual policy expiration date that we receive either from AMS or from the policies that are downloaded into our system. And the X date is specifically something you have to apply on either the contact or the account level when you're editing those fields. And then Paula just said we're not seeing the right page, and I'm not sure which I was referring to. So hopefully you guys saw everything on your side. Ben said, where do we create a parent and child lead source? Within your pipeline, if you go in here, it's probably two really main methods. When you are adding a deal card into the pipeline, if you scroll down and notice the lead source section, you have the ability to add a new lead source here. That will then save into your lead source list for future use. You can also access the action button here in the top right, select lead source from the dropdown, and add a new source directly from the lead source list. Okay, that will allow you to input their name, their email, their phone number, and even their address line if needed, so you can deliver automations to the lead source as well. Okay, let's check again. Okay. I think you also asked me import child sources to a new lead source. If you're asking if like you can transfer an existing child source to a different one, if you click on the child source and select the edit option here, you're gonna see that this is kind of locked into the walk-in stage, but you can't always create a duplicate of it. Just click add child, map that here. Once you set this up in here, you will have the option to select the appropriate lead source, map the child here. But once you save that child source to the corresponding parent source, it will be locked in. So I see Kate asked, what kind of automation would you send to a lead source? What I've most commonly seen is just like a quick thank you email. Once we bring an opportunity, either if we qualify it here in the contacted stage, I've even seen agencies do it once they've actually won the opportunity. If you go into your automation settings on the pipeline, and this can only be done by the admins, but when you set up an automation, there is the ability to set your recipient to deal source. So let's say you wanted to send that thank you message to your lead source. I can go to the close stage. I can add an automation email. Okay. And then select my deal source as a recipient. Then when I'm creating the deal card, I will map the appropriate lead source. And if I have the email address on file for that lead, they will then receive this automation. Check chat again. Okay. I don't think I see anything else in the chat. Okay. I think Justin said something about, is there a timeline for releasing InsuredMine's AI chat? Nothing that I'm aware of right now. I don't know of any specific timeline for release, but it's certainly something that we can update you guys on if it gets closer to. What if client is a referral source? Can you thank them in automation? Like what if an existing client is listed as a referral source? Unfortunately for that specific workflow, if we select deal source, they would have to be added to your lead source list in order to work like that. Now, obviously, you can always go into that contact or that client's page directly and send them that communication. But that would be a manual trigger. For the automation, if they are listed as the deal source, they have to be set up as lead source. Okay. Would be nice to add referral source as an option and drop down or custom field. I mean, you can absolutely add that as a custom field, right? It's just you wouldn't be able to run automations off of that custom field. Um, so if you want to send it something to directly to an existing client, I would definitely recommend just doing that manually for the time being. You can note it as a custom field on the deal card, but we can't run any automation off of that, if that makes sense. Um, okay. I don't see anything else in the system or in my chat or my Q&A at the moment. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, before I stop share of my screen, I do want to make sure everybody is aware all of the features that we've looked at today, everything that I've covered during this session. You can find the knowledge base articles relating to each new feature release under the What's New tab here. If you click View All, that will take you into our release notes section, where you can see the release notes for all of 2025 and earlier. So if you have any additional questions, if some of the features I've shown you today you want a bit more detail on, please feel free to access that What's New tab, find the release notes, and select the knowledge base article you want to view. Again, stop share real quick. And we'll move back over to our presentation. Okay. So before we go ahead and wrap up, wanted to make sure you guys were aware of 3 important items. Firstly, the Insured Mind Learning Academy is our training course. It has video tutorials and quizzes covering our pipeline module, e-sign, engagement, all those fun things. If you guys have not already taken the course, I do highly recommend doing so, even if you just need a refresher on IM. We also have the ability to register for our upcoming webinar sessions. As a reminder, we do these every other Wednesday. Topics are always changing and in flux. So if you guys do have suggestions for an upcoming webinar, please feel free to share them with us. On this next screen, I will show you the webinar feedback page, which you'll be more than happy to share any upcoming suggestions, or just how you feel about these sessions in general. Okay. And this is that webinar feedback page. I did see a question coming on chat real quick. It says, Kate, how do you find these another QR code on the website? So the webinar feedback, the only option we have for right now is the QR code. I think it is sometimes shared in the recap emails for the webinars. So you may be able to find that link there. But for the other two, they are available on the InsuredMine website. Here, I'll go ahead and get out of this presentation real quick, and then I can show you guys. Okay, so if I go to the InsuredMine website right here, for the Learning Academy, if I go under the resources section, I can click under InsuredMine certification. You would either log in or sign up. If you have not previously registered for the Learning Academy specifically, you would need to sign up as a new user. However, when you are completing this registration form, please be sure to use the same email address that is on file for your InsuredMine instance. Okay, and then for registering for the upcoming webinars, again, under resources, if we click on the webinars button, you can view all of our previous webinar sessions, including those from last year. If I click on my 2025 webinar view, I can see all of the previous sessions that we have attended. And once we post the next webinar, you will be able to register directly from this page. This is also where all of our recordings will live. So if you missed a session and you want to view that recording, you can find it here on this page. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the session. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoons, and I'm sure we'll connect again soon. Have a great one.